Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you back. Today I thought I would cover some EI stuff. So we're just going to look at some Seitei of mine. And basically the idea is, what does a year's worth of practice get you? Have I made any improvements? And keeping a bit of an eye on the Chakuganten and that sort of thing, obviously. So I passed Shodan in January. So I'll be eligible for Nidan in February, so I'm starting to think about how to tidy up with respect to the Chakuganten. Also, I've been passed some advice recently from the was the British, like the BKA summer seminar. So there were all Japan delegates that obviously attended the seminar. Now I missed the seminar, but I was passed some of the updates, shall we say. You know how it is, how people love to change things. Anyways, so obviously a few minor little changes to the Seitei forms. So yeah, trying to bear some of those in mind going forward. So we're going to look at my kata from roughly a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, but not much more. Close enough to call it a year for sure. And we'll compare that to some kata, basically a one-off embu I did after kendo training one night. So yeah, just literally, ran for the Iaido, did mitori and did the kata, filmed them, and that's what we're going to use as a reference. And I did it that way because I felt like, well, what if I was asked to do the embu tomorrow for the shinsa or for the shiai, that sort of thing. So if I just did it as a one-off with no warm-ups or anything like that, no EI warm-up anyway, then I would get probably a fair, honest impression of like where the habits lie and that sort of thing. So there are plenty of mistakes, and we're going to go over at least the ones that I know of, and feel free to talk about anything else that you guys spot in the comments. After all, the idea is that if somebody happens across this that's also in the early beginning stages of their EI, they can watch the video, pick up on some of the things that I've been passed from my teachers or that I can spot, just having focused on it. And they can read your comments and hopefully pick up a few things there that can help them correct little niggly issues that they might share with me. So let's crack on here. So let's look at the first one. So it'll be and this obviously I'll play the first video will be like the older one, the year-old one, and then it'll switch to the one from like last week, right? So here we go. So right away, I think there's a couple things. So like, I remember getting some feedback of trying to not rise too high and then do the niketsuke, but try and do the rising and the niketsuke in one, if that makes sense, and yet still have that seme in the beginning of the kata. It's not terrible, but we're not far away from like fully up on the knees. What I do like about this one is the furikaburi position that I hit. I actually thought that looked really tidy. It was like a nice kind of 45-degree angle. Cuts the tip of the sword. It's too low. It's definitely too low. Like Koryu too low kind of thing. So yeah, for Seitei, definitely need to tidy that up based on this first performance. Oh, excuse if you hear any noise of cars driving by. I have to film in my car today. It's just, you got to film when you can, I think the Chiburi angle of the trajectory of the sword is quite nice along the Kesa line. I think the finish position of my arm, there's a little bit of that bend in the elbow. And the grip is a little too loose, so the tip is quite far out from the line of the body. and it wasn't in one motion, so there was a real long pause, you know. And I think that's understandable when you're starting to learn Shiburi and you're breaking it down into motions. It's a bit robotic and you're trying to make sure, like, did I bring it up to like right by my ear here? Is the blade facing forward or is it like facing across my face? You know, there's like little checkpoints you're sort of ticking off, and it isn't really built into muscle memory yet. And so that's what we're seeing here. I think the overall movement for Zanshin is not too bad. And the Noto is, again, it's not too bad. Swords maybe a little off center. You know, really it's the Tsuba is kind of in the center of the body rather than where the right hand goes on to the Tsuka. I think there's a bit more Seimei here. Draw and cut in one. Now the tip of my sword drops down in this one. Not below horizontal, but I don't think it looks as nice, especially if it's for Shinza. It's not as nice as the first one, actually. But I suppose on the plus side, we watch that again. The trade-off, I guess, is more power in the cut, but I think I need to work to achieve more power without relaxing the little finger too much, so the Kensei doesn't drop. Pardon me. Shiburi's a smoother action, still a little wide out from the body, although you can see I can sort of correct it as I go here, but still the mistake was made. So maybe the angle of the blade is a little bit flat. Let me know what you think about that. But I think my right hand position at the end of Noto is better. The sword positioning on the body is better. Okay, Oshiro, let's have a look. So that's very much like turn and then cut, isn't it? Let's go and have a look one more time at that. Okay, let's have a look at that. So on the feet, draw. And the angle's like already set, isn't it? So there's not very much seimei in that. But yeah, it's sort of like turn and cut. And then the Kiryu is, again, the tip is too low, and the Shiburi stops at the top, isn't it? It's not the worst though. Noto is okay. Hand position is probably better than the first one, you know, like the older clip. You'll have to excuse me, I have had the flu recently. I think my Seizo is better in general. The tip of the saya is not dipping down as much. So I think this one's better at coming across to cleave the temple. You know, like getting all the way across them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I've had feedback on this and I want to know if I understood it correctly. But my understanding was, for Shido, you know, if you turn and you cut kind of like Maya, because you're still bringing your body across, you'll basically miss them. You'll kind of hit them like front and face sort of thing at best, if you've got the Mai. So you kind of almost need to over exaggerate the coming across. But let me know if that's right, if that's something you've been taught or not, or if I'm misunderstanding that. But it's tricky hooking up the timing, isn't it? So that I'm not just fully face forward and then doing that. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. So I still need to piece that last bit of the Niketsuke together, I think. Let's watch it again. Same is better though. It stays tate for longer. And then only goes yoko when you pull across. I'm gonna look at the Sayabanari. Yeah, it could be. It's not as good as mine. It's not as strong. It doesn't come all the way. You know, the saya doesn't come all the way back across the body and get that nice flat, perfectly flat angle. On the whole, though, not too bad. Oshido is a little bit like It's tougher than Mai, isn't it? It's just more balls to juggle, coordinating the body. The other thing I wanted to look at was like Kikantai no Ichi for both Mai and Ushiro. And I think there's been a decent improvement. So let's go back and we'll look at even Mai again. Okay, so Ushiro, let's go back a little bit further. Further again. So like the Kikantai there is a bit better, and here with the front foot, that's definitely sharper. The blade's maybe a little bit too flat, like the tip of the sword should just be that slight bit lower, shouldn't it? But not so low as the first example. So like in this old version of Shiro, it's like here, it's like foot then cut. So I've been trying to work on the Fumikomi for the Nikitsuke, timing that a bit sharper, and then when you advance that front foot, you know, kicking out, and the Kiriroshi, like trying to sharpen those up. So I'll have a look again at the new version of Ushiro and see if I've managed to tighten the Kikantai no Ichi a bit. Yeah, so it's definitely better with the Fukomiyashi coming across, and same thing with the front foot. It's definitely more coordinated looking. So there's definitely been areas of progression from a year ago. I think I just need to keep my eye on the ball, like keep the furikaburi tidy. Just, yeah, not overdo it when trying to generate power in the cut, if that makes sense. I mean, it's nice to have consistent power, but I think it's just over relaxing that left finger and maybe the left wrist as well. So like here, I think in Ukenagashi, it's debatable whether I've covered the whole body or not. Yeah. As I step up, it's not too bad, I don't think, but it's quite low round by the end of the shoulder. So like here, oh yeah, there's just a bit of shoulder exposed there, and then maybe the very just side of the head there. The cut's not very powerful as well. It's not a terrible trajectory, but there's not a lot of convincing thing in it. So we'll have a look at the new one and see. The other thing I didn't do was like make sure that my body, I think, was like fully squared up to the opponent before initiating the cut and, you know, letting the leg fall back. The Seis is definitely tidier though. That's better. It can still use more, isn't it? They're like the, you know, torque in the hip to keep the chest kind of square on with the opponent. But it's definitely an improvement there, and I think the cut itself is much improved from where it was. Yeah, on the whole I'm happy with that. I mean, I have worked quite a lot on Ukenagashi because I felt like it was definitely one of my weakest kata. So I wanted to try to at least bring it up to the level of the ones that I was stronger at. Tsukawate is a difficult kata to understand. So the first thing is, I think so like this version, the tateiza, the sai is touching the ground. The front knee collapses in quite a lot, and then I leave the saya, I leave it behind. You know, so after drawing and then doing the ski, I end up leaving it behind. But look at that ski again, because it's an important point, isn't it? It's a little off to the side, isn't it? It needs to be a bit more into the center, you would say. Chiburi's okay, but the tip's a bit too low. More confidence in the grip. And then the Sonkyo is not that half Sonkyo position. It's like not convincing. So here I think immediately it's a more comfortable and better tateiza. The front knee is not as bad in terms of like collapsing in, but it's still not 100% straight. So let's have a look at that again. I think I could have the back leg come round a little bit more for more stability. Something I didn't know was that you could actually have that at a right angle before, pretty much. I always just assumed it was like try not to turn it too much kind of thing. But it's one of the points that seems to have been brought up at the summer seminar, is that like that, the back foot comes like all the way around and then all the way back again. So it maybe gives her more stability. So let's go back there and watch it one more time. And I like the return to Sonkyo, the half Sonkyo, much better. Somebody tell me what that position is actually called. I'm sure it's not actually called half Sonkyo. Or maybe it is, but what's the Japanese for it? Anyway, let's move on to Kesagiri. Okay, so there's like no semi. There's like no semi whatsoever. I think let's look at that again, because there's a lot to unpack, isn't there? So like I just advanced, I put my hands on the second step, and then I just dropped. Like, surprise! The downward stroke, the Kiryu is not so bad, the Nuketsuke. Let's have a look at that again. Sorry, there's a lot of like going back, but there's no point talking about it unless you talk about the details again. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but like yeah, Chiburi is like up and then down, isn't it? And then the other thing is like my right hand goes flat to the side instead of going to the koiguchi. This is a point actually while I'm on this topic. One of the points raised at the summer seminar was as you're about to step back from haso, that your left hand should come off and return to the koiguchi before you actually initiate the step and the chiburi, which is a little bit contrary to the kind of most recent teaching we had up until that point, which was to before you, as you were making that step back and you left the hustle there, and then it was like you did the chiburi and the return to the koiguchi as one, if that makes sense. Now they're like, no, get your hand on the koiguchi first and then finish the chiburi. So slight variance in that. So the newer version definitely has more seme. I think I do manage to get the right arm more vertical, although the tip drops as I get my left hand on and make the cut. The hustle's more square, I think, is better, and like a more of a 45-degree angle, like the first one. If we go back to the first one, first one, like the blade's nice and forward towards them, but it's like really vertical, isn't it? Kind of like flag polish. But then I think in the newer one I've developed a new problem, because one of the problems I have, right, is my Jodan and my hustle are very kendo, because I've been doing kendo like 20 years. So what you find is like I have like a 45-degree angle outwards as well, almost. I think for EI it's meant to be not flagpole, but like not that much, not that extreme, like maybe 30 degrees or something like that. On the whole though, another one, the Kesagiri is another one where I've tried to put in a lot of work, because it was one that I always felt like I made mistakes and had a lot of misunderstandings. Morotetsuki. It's a little... Niketsuke is like a little like the trajectory isn't like bang into center, it's a little like slap. I don't know if I'm being overly critical here, but let's look at it again. Slap. The ski is okay. Again, so recent advice from the summer seminar is not to do like full hiketsuke for the ski. So it's like, so you do the niketsuke, you have a wide base. You do hiketsuke to make Shodan no kamai, and then when you do the ski, it's like from there you push out, but don't hiketsuke all the way. So it's push out and keep a wide base. So it's like small hiketsuke, but have that like wide base, if you know, that stability behind the ski to generate more impact, more power into the ski itself. So like, you know, stabilizing your frame more in that sense. I was like, oh gosh, that's going to be a hard habit to break, because in kendo, like, you know, it's always the opposite. It's always bring your back foot up, bring your back foot, you know, heel to toe, heel to toe, heel to toe. So yeah, it's one of the challenges of doing kendo and EI. So let's have a look at that second version again, if we've had a look at it yet. I think, other than that, I think the techniques were okay in that first one. I think it's a bit better to chin height, like it's a bit more accurate to target. I've been trying to work out how to emphasize the Kikentai no Ichi on those Kirioroshi. So, excuse me. Because from the front, you know, what you see is like the right foot, the forward foot, stop, and then the cut lands. And so the cut is timed with the back foot, the hiketsuke on the back foot. I was just wondering if that is the correct way to sell the intensity of the cut. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of the Kikentai no Ichi aspect of that. The other thing is like, is the sword like pulling out from the opponent, and like, where am I looking? That's another thing I want to look at. So let's look at the first one. You can see me trying to keep it where it was. Like, it's difficult. Again, the tip's a bit low. It's hard to see from that angle, but it is a little bit low on the chibiri. It's a little tinier, isn't it? The chibiri is much better than, like, the flatness of the blade. That's I would say is like a definite improvement. Alright, fair enough. I think it's a reasonable improvement there, and I've been able to apply the recent advice from the Selma seminar, so happy enough with that. Sampo giri. Don't like the niketsuke at all. Otherwise, it's okay. Especially for the level, like I would have been EQ, starting to, you know, being in the neck of the woods for Shodan at the time. So I guess it's okay, you know, for that level. I think the niketsuke is much stronger in this one now. And Kiyorosh is better as well, I think. You can see my very sideways Shodan. I mean, on the whole, I'm reasonably happy with this kata and how it looks at the moment. Maybe more zanshin. Let that zanshin linger a little bit more. Maybe let's have a look at the footwork. So, okay, so this is the first one. I think I've got my opponents in slightly the wrong place for that first one. So like my reference is slightly off. So like the front opponent seems off in relation to the two opponents on the side. I don't know, let me know what you think. Look at the second one. Yeah, this seems like it makes more sense for where the opponent should be. So I think that initial step, that 45-degree step, my reference of kind of stepping kind of round their cut a little, and do you know what I mean? That seems to have improved somewhat. But let me know what you guys think. I mean, like I'm not an expert, so that's why I post these things just to share. So gunman out there. Let's have another look at that. Maybe could have been closer with the, the hitting them in the eyes. Maybe a slightly bigger posture as well to give a bit more stability for the cuts. On the whole, I mean, it's not too bad. I think the main thing I wanted to work with was the Saiwa Nare of, like, so as you unsheathe the sword, keeping it tate, vertical, for longer, but then going yoko right at the last second. Like that whole idea of like getting it to match the contour of your body, so that you don't get that nasty like clanking against the saya. So that's probably like one of the biggest things I've been working on, and just having a bit more like power in Kiketai no Ichi with the ski. I think it's improved. But this is like, for me, is one of the hardest kata to see the details, So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing my sensei, because it's been a long time since we've had a catch up. Seitei ski. I think my ski angle it's not quite flat enough. That's one of the things. I think as well, the timing of seeing the opponent and then making the Nikitsuke, that's a little off, but it's not bad. And then probably like drawing my foot back too much, isn't it? Drawing that front foot back too much. And then I don't like the look of this like bent, weak back leg at the back. Finish with Noto. But it's, again, quite a technical kata, and for the level I think it was okay at the time. But I think I've made some improvements now. So that looks stronger immediately. I think I'm still drawing that foot back too much. Oh no, that's better. That's not so bad. The ski's still too vertical though, isn't it? It needs to be flat. Maybe there's a bit of a misunderstanding on my part. But at least there's more of an A shape to the hakama on that back step as well. So there's a few areas of improvement, and there's a little area of misunderstanding. I think with that ski, I really underestimated how flat it should be. So yeah, something I'm sure I can put into practice pretty simply. So Shiogiri, this one makes me laugh because that little hop. Yeah, when you go for the strike. So in this old version, I do this like little hop. And yeah, it just makes me giggle every time I see it. But ski is like really weak. And Kirio's like the hands are like a little out of the scar, like out this way, rather than like over the top of it. So like the main areas that I wanted to do was like try and strengthen the ski and just strengthen the overall precision of the cuts. So I think the ski is definitely better in this one. There's definitely more sense of Kentai no Ichi. Probably the last thing as well was the wakigamai. So like in the first one, if we go back to the first one, you'll see I don't hide my sword at all. Yeah, it sticks completely up back. Some of it's the angle of the camera. I don't think it's quite as bad as the camera lets on, but because of my frame of reference of where the opponent's sword is maybe slightly off, and the angle of the camera is really odd because it's slightly off to the right, not dead in front. But this is something I still need to iron out because I think it's still slightly there. I think I'm a little bit like overreaching with my wrists or something when I make a wakigamai. So this all looks much better. And then nice Kentai no Ichi. And then there, you can just see it's probably sticking out the other side somewhat. So I think I just need to chill out with wakigamai a little bit. I've been so like mentally focused on getting the tip down, but I think I'm like overdoing it, like putting too much tension into that movement, and that's just like sending it around the back of my legs. So Sogiri, let's have a look. Done with more semi. The cuts are like super rushed, aren't they? For the level, I'm so used to doing like kirikashi in kendo, and kirikashi at my level in kendo, it's like get a move on kind of thing. It has to be fluid. So, like learn to suppress the ego, and make sure I cut to target and things like that. I think this is very like, I mean it could be worse, it could be a lot worse, couldn't it? But there's a little bit of like step in cut kind of thing. So that's something I wanted to iron out, was like the Kentai no Ichi. Also, you see how like a return to position, it's like really like ploddy. That's something I've worked hard to try to iron out and just relax. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. But I know, like, I think my reference for the first two cuts, the second cut is slightly off. So, like, the first cut, like, down to the chin, I think that goes okay. But the second one needs to come deeper, doesn't it? My understanding is that goes through the clavicle, but I think I need to bring it just, down to the kind of sternum level more. And it's not really doing that. It's like only just cutting into clavicle, maybe at best. The third cut I think is okay. The cut to the belly I think is okay, considering it's pretty hard. So yeah, not too bad. Okay, so Nukiuchi. Nukiuchi, apologies for that, that was my mechanic. I think Nukiuchi was one of my strongest kata before. But I didn't know that you couldn't step forward with the back leg. And to be fair, I think it's changed once or twice over the years or something, because I've seen Andy Watson, you know, he was talking about being able to step back and step forward into the Mai. Yeah, so that was like intentional, not an unintentional thing, if that makes sense. That was my understanding of what I was required to do at the time. So I'm just going to do one more look at the old one. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, maybe on the step back I could get the sword a bit more vertical, and it's maybe a little bit too forward. You could argue that I'd lose this. I think the Kiryu is okay. I think the Chiburi was okay for my level of knowledge. So here I keep the back foot planted, and I think the whole thing just looks a little sharper, a little tidier, and Cut's probably got a bit more power too. I'll just take one more look at that and then I'll leave you guys alone. This is just like geeking out and something to chat about. A bit more semi here, I think. Yeah, definitely bring that more vertical now, don't I? I think so anyway. But let me know what you guys think, because I know a lot of you would probably have more experienced EI eyes than myself. But no, on the whole, I think it's going in a reasonable direction. So that's all the kata. So I'll just leave you with my final thoughts. I think there's noticeable progress, and it's across all the kata, which is good. Especially with, I would say Kiken Tai no Ichi is largely noticeably improved across most, if not all, of the kata. Kiryu Rosh, I think, is improved, but caution on Mae and Ushiro not to keep it completely horizontal, if that makes sense, like a kendo kote. Shodan Kamae needs a little tidying up, definitely, and it's one or two other like small things. Keep working on those skis, my wakigamai in shiogiri, things like that. But I mean, like, it's all stuff that's like, okay, you know, if I've seen it and have a chat with my sensei, that's all stuff like between what's now, it's like call it mid-October, say mid-October 2024, eligible in January. I think that's all stuff I should be able to like iron out. But let me know what you think for like a Nidan level pass. Do you think I'm like roughly where I should be? Or are you like, you've got work to do? Or do you think like actually you're in the ballpark kind of thing? I get the sense that maybe if I tidy up those bits, then I'm probably on the right track, just from watching other Nidan so far. So that's kind of what I think is. So like, it does look sharper. It looks like it makes more sense. It looks like I have a better idea of where the opponents are and things like that. Everything is generally moved along a little, but don't take for granted the fundamentals, if that makes sense. So I think this happens in kendo as well. Nidan level, everything gets a bit like snappier, a bit more fluid. There's a bit more balance to it, but sometimes at the risk of like things getting smaller and taking slight shortcuts in form and things like that. So yeah, anyway, look, let me know what you think in the comments, and it was just nice to get making an EI related video again after doing a bunch of kendo ones. So yeah, that's it. Until next time, I'll see you all, and I've got to go and get my kid from school now, so bye bye.